This episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast was brought to you by Forest Salon Software. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Reid. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. Today my guest is Dr. Ben Johnson from Osmosis Beauty. After opening a successful chain of Medi-spas around the US, Dr. Ben Johnson founded and formulated his first skincare line, Cosmedix, with a strategy that was unique at the time, creating medical strength results using all natural and chirally correct ingredients. Dr. Johnson has since developed Osmosis Beauty with the goal of changing the direction of skincare away from excessive exfoliation and renewing the focus of dermal remodeling, barrier, DNA repair, and detoxification. The product range, now including Osmosis Color, has created a great deal of excitement in the beauty industry thanks to its unique action and outstanding results. Today, the conversation takes us through some enlightening and truly fascinating information on chirally correct ingredient usage, the depths of retinol versus retinaldehyde, aging, and even explores that elusive skin condition so many of us struggle to treat, melasma. From Osmosis Beauty, today we welcome Dr. Ben Johnson. Dr. Ben Johnson, welcome to the Beauty Industry Podcast.
Thanks, Tamara. It's a pleasure being here today.
Likewise. Thank you so much for joining me. I can see that it's nighttime where you are, so I appreciate the late night and the conversation nonetheless.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love reaching people from around the globe, and Australia is one of my favorite places to visit. Perhaps on another time, but normally it would be one of my favorite places. And so I think what I've noticed is people in Australia, especially estheticians and people in this industry, are very inquisitive and intellectually curious, is the way I guess I would put it, and well studied. You know, they love to dive deep, they love to be analytical, and that's right up my alley. So I'm excited to get started today.
Excellent. Hey, so let's go back to the start of your career history. How did you actually enter into aesthetics and beauty?
Oh man, I was going to be a sports medicine physician, and I was a couple of years into my residency when laser hair removal first came out, and I was like, well, that's going to be big. So I started a clinic while I was in residency, hired a nurse, and had that going for a while. Then I decided, well, this is going really well. I should open up a chain across the country. And I got about 8 clinics in, hiring like friends from high school and doing just about everything wrong you could do before I hit a wall. And the good news on that, however, was in hitting that wall and closing my clinics, I had started formulating. And so I had my first range, which is called Cosmedix, spelled D-I-X at the end. I think it does pretty well in Australia still today. And so, that was sort of my toe in the water of formulating, doing chirally correct skincare. And then I sold my interest in that basically because of a partner dispute, and ended up sitting back and really sort of reimagining what the skincare world should be like. And, sort of the impetus of it was that I had noticed, even with my Cosmedix line, which I thought was a great line, I wasn't getting any permanent changes. And so I began to explore what was the difference between skincare that got permanent changes and that did not. And to be honest, there wasn't anything out there at the time that I felt had that effect. And then secondly, why were skin conditions so challenging? What was at the root of them? And so I was really just about diving deep to figure out, well, what's the actual source of each and every skin condition that's out there? And what's the source of aging? What's the source of melasma, hyperpigmentation, eczema, psoriasis, all those things? And the good news is, over the last 14 years of doing this, I believe I know the sources of just about every problem. And as a result, I began to formulate products to treat those origins. And that's why Osmosis has really been taken off.
Wow. Wow. What a very cool story. Was there, stubborn client concerns that you were seeing in the clinic that made you want to formulate in the first place? Or, not everyone opens a clinic and then wants to start a formulation,
I know.
and their own
Well,
brand.
Us doctors and our egos were like, we can do it all. So maybe it was a little of that. I think it was, I don't know what it was in the beginning. It certainly wasn't at that time. The passion wasn't behind trying to solve the challenging problems. It was more about the challenge of formulating as opposed to the challenge of skin condition. So I really shifted my motivation when I formulated Osmosis, and that effect shows, I think.
Yeah, very cool. You mentioned they're chirally correct. Can you just give us a brief overview of what that actually means?
Yeah, there, and it wasn't my original idea, although that term, chirally correct skincare, I think we coined it back in the day. But it's actually a well-established scientific concept that just describes the different enantiomers of molecules. So molecules can either most of the time they're taking on either a left shift or a right shift when exposed to light. It's how it bends the light. It gets complicated, but the simple term is there are left-handed molecules and there are right-handed molecules. And for example, vitamin C, the best form of vitamin C is a left-handed L-ascorbic acid. That's what the L stands for, levo. And when you put on the skin, the D-ascorbic acid, which is dextro or right, is half of vitamin C. So that's why when you're a formulator, you want to formulate with just the L-ascorbic and not with ascorbic without the L or D in front of it, because it's 50% stronger by that nature. Now, as I've grown in my understanding, I would say we're probably discounting a little too much the brilliance of the skin and the fact that the skin has the ability to shift a molecule from left-handed to right-handed, maybe with more effort. We don't know exactly how much effort that would take. We do know that L-ascorbic acid performs better with initial application. So you can do this with a whole host of course, all amino acids are left-handed, but there's a whole host of ingredients that you can find that are stronger. Like our lipoic acid, for example, is a stronger version of lipoic acid, more effective. So there's a whole host of those molecules. And so that's something Osmosis still practices, wherever possible, we're using chirally correct ingredients, but it's certainly not the emphasis of the strategy, because that wasn't enough to get permanent change.
Yeah, interesting. And it sounds like in terms of that strategy, when you first created Osmosis, you started with the formulation and the ingredients and then kind of went into marketing and branding and product development from there. Whereas I think these days it's kind of the reverse. People go, okay, well, we've got this beautiful target market. Now, how can we create a product to suit them? Whereas it sounds like you've really got the ingredients in the forefront of the mind of the product here.
I so appreciate that you said that, Tamara, because formulating has become such a passionate thing for me. And I was sharing the other day on an Instagram live video how strange it is. Most people can't imagine this, but I actually go out and use my intuition a lot to find ingredients, and then go research the ingredient to find out how amazing it was, and get all excited that my intuition picked that one out of the lot because I'd never heard of it before, and it turns out it's like so good for this, whether it was wellness or skincare. So there was some degree of that in the beginning when I was formulating, but absolutely the focus was basically this. Every serum you use, I wanted to make it to be a concentrate, so it would have as many ingredients as it can, as little water as it could. And in order to do that, I thought I should focus each segment of serums. Like, so one is a collagen focused serum. So I looked for all the ingredients I could find that would stimulate collagen non-traumatically. We can get into that idea, but I'm very much a believer that there's only a certain subset of ingredients that actually stimulate collagen, that is long-term collagen. I like to think of, there is acute response collagen, where if you exfoliate, for example, so if I use an acid, that will generate some collagen because I have now lifted up several layers of stratum corneum. The skin responds in kind by saying, we've got to increase turnover. It needs more collagen for that. That's not dermal collagen. That is going to create restore a barrier over time. But I'm of the belief that fibroblast, or all the fibroblasts involved in that action, they have a limited capacity. So if you're always exfoliating the skin, you're overwhelming their ability to stay focused on the dermal collagen they also want to be making molecules for. So with that understanding, I made collagen based serums, which are my ACE serums. We use retinaldehyde, which has become more and more popular these days, and it should. It's the best and only retinol anyone should use. And then a whole host of things like beta glucan and chlorella and hydroxyproline, of course, L-hydroxyproline, and R-lipoic acid, and a handful of other collagen stimulators that are including oh my gosh, my fibroblast recruiter, I'm just blanking on it at the moment. And so it was putting that together, and then putting together sort of a wound healing formula, putting together an epidermal repair formula, and focusing ingredients on that, because some people, first of all, they can only afford one serum. So you want to make sure they have the serum that they're most interested in correcting on their face. And number two, it allows people to shift a little bit in their focus, or layer one more. If let's say your epidermal texture is your main problem, or you have age spots. Well, it turns out that one serum for Osmosis is rescue, and that's your focus. And then, you can add your second layer is maybe the A serum or the DNA repair or something. So that was sort of the idea. But I will tell you, like, one of the biggest hurdles that skincare doesn't do. And I was going to say one other thing to your comment, because I so appreciate it. And that is, so many people today, and I shouldn't say people, usually when individuals formulate, they've got some idea in mind of why they're doing it, what they want to do. But there's so many brands, and the bigger brands are typically formulated on cost. How do I get the most profit, which is the opposite of what you should do. And more of the instant result. Like, what am I doing to create something where, and I'm good with instant results, but if you're focusing on that and not asking for, well, what can I do to get long-term results, you won't get them. And so it was really shifting the focus, because I think when I started formulating Osmosis, a lot of people didn't believe you could get permanent changes in your skin. Mm-hmm. They see that, they know that if they stopped their vitamin A, their wrinkles started showing up again. And that's what made me question, why does retinol not give me a longer term result on my wrinkle? And we can get into that. Lots of stories we could dive deep on. But yeah, I absolutely formulated to, to get, the result was the most important aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important. And just as you were saying there, the way we used to treat was just exfoliate, peel, peel to get down to these lower layers. And now the industry has very much, changed the script, and we're all about microbiome and healing and repairing and preserving the cells. Have you noticed that huge shift, and has that changed the way that you formulate it all?
No, and people ask me there, and I guess it's a little boring, because people are like, well, Dr. Johnson, when's your next anti-aging serum coming out? Because that has been the marketing strategy of skincare lines, right? They come out with their vitamin C range, and then they come out with their glycolic range, and then they come out with their retinol range. And there are only so many ingredients to create permanent change. We think we figured out the secret sauce to it. Why would we change? If I see a new ingredient, for example, in my A serums, I'm adding, the ingredient is it's actually a peptide. There's not many peptides I like, but I found a peptide that has some really nice additives to it. So I'm adding this peptide to my existing serums. I'm not going to add a new serum because I want you to have all the other goodies too. Like, you don't stop using. Some people ask, well, does your skin get tired of the same ingredient over and over again? And I'm like, let's think about what's happening in your skin right now. It's using L-ascorbic acid to create sticky amino acids, all the same amino acids every day, 24/7 for your entire lifetime. And it's building collagen molecules with that substrate every day of your life. No, it doesn't get tired of using the same stuff. It recycles the L-ascorbic acid with glutathione so that you can reuse it. It tears down your collagen and reuses those amino acids as many times as it can. Like, your skin is highly efficient because it has to be, and it uses the same stuff. So we focus our formulas on the things we think are scarce, and that is really all you need to do. And so you don't need to change it. And that's been a big part of our story as well. Oh, okay. And what you mentioned something else. Sorry, I'm a blabber on, but you mentioned microbiome. I actually take a unique perspective. So I watch these new companies come and go, and I see their strategies. And trust me, the labs come to every major skincare company with their latest and greatest ingredients. It's always, this is a great marketing story, and that's the crux. I would say 90% of the ingredients are all about the marketing story. And the microbiome is such a critical story for the gut, and it's not much of a story for the skin. And the reason why is your skin is environmentally tough, and it's designed that way. So that microbiome is designed to take hits repeatedly and come back pretty quickly. And your microbiome is chosen by your skin's DNA. It's not chosen by what you wipe your face on after you touch a doorknob, thank goodness, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think the microbiome story is a marketing story. And there are a lot of them out there, and so I have to weed through that when I'm formulating. But it's a fun job.
Yes, interesting. I love a good unpopular opinion. Someone who comes and shakes things up.
I do like to shake things up. That's true.
After the break, Dr. Ben speaks to retinol, melasma, inflammation, aging, and so much more. But first, a word from today's beauty partner. Community, you have heard us mention before how we want you to work smarter, not harder in your business, and Forest Salon software will help you to do exactly that. Forest empowers salons, spas, and aesthetic businesses to manage, market, and grow their business, not just through innovation in technology, but also through personal growth, mentoring, and support. Forest believes in the human touch that is at the heart of the salon community, and that is why it is the only software provider to have a personal success manager connected to every business and a dedication to being the partner that helps salon owners achieve their dreams. With unlimited support, online training, and the most sophisticated marketing suite in the industry, Forest's cloud-based point-of-sale solution is there to support you to take your business to the next level. As an exclusive beauty partner offer, the team at Forest would like to provide you access to 50% off your setup fee, which includes data migration from your existing platform and unlimited bespoke training. All you have to do is take a look further by clicking through the show notes for more information on what this looks like for your business, and mention you heard them here when booking a trial. Thank you so much to the team at Forest Salon Software for making this episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast possible. And now, back to Dr. Ben Johnson. So then you mentioned before retinaldehyde. Can you just talk to the difference and benefits of using that over a retinol, which our industry and our clients too are so familiar with?
Yeah, so boy, it was a deep dive into vitamin A's when I first got started because you have the cis and the trans retinol, and the mixture of the two. And people noticed that if they used all trans retinol, they got a lot more exfoliation. So they took that to mean stronger collagen production. You can use, some of the pharmaceutical retinols and adapalene and the likes that are either antibacterial or in some way, exfoliating, or however their mechanism of action designed to work. But I can tell you, I think the big secret is that no other retinol besides retinoic acid and retinaldehyde stimulate collagen. That is my takeaway from all of it. And I'm talking about dermal collagen. I'm not talking about if you put a retinol in your skin that exfoliates, yes, it's true. It will stimulate that sort of epidermal collagen repair system. But dermal collagen is another matter. And the reason why retinaldehyde does is because it's the precursor to retinoic acid. So it's what your skin uses, because your skin does not store retinoic acid. It's what your skin uses to make retinoic acid. And you can't use retinoic acid. And this is where the other shocker that people need to learn is that retinoic acid is not meant to be present 24/7. It is toxic to the epidermis, which is well proven in the same research they're quoting to tell you that it's good for aging skin. It actually shows that the epidermis is traumatized, that the keratinocytes don't mature, that DNA damage occurs, that the epidermis thins over time. At first it thickens in like a scar-like response, which is what everyone goes, "Ooh, my wrinkles are better." And then it thins over time. Your skin gets very vascular. Its sun sensitizes you. It's just a big hot mess. And people are like, "But wait a minute, how is it so good at stimulating dermal collagen and do that?" Well, the answer is it's made so precisely by your dermis. A retinaldehyde molecule is taken and it's converted to retinoic acid in an instant. It is utilized in that moment and it is gone. And it doesn't sit around and come back and hang out, because it has, in fact, what the study showed was that retinoic acid, when present, actually reduced the collagen teardown of damaged collagen. And people jumped on that the wrong way too, because they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, it reduced collagen teardown. That isn't that anti-aging." I'm like, no, your skin doesn't tear down good collagen. It only tears down damaged collagen, unless you have, Benjamin Button disease or something. So, retinoic acid is the wrong tool. Retinaldehyde, since your skin converts it to retinoic acid, it's the only molecule of vitamin A that is converted to retinoic acid directly. And everyone's like, "Well, but what about the chain? What about the fact that beta carotene turns into, retinol palmitate, turns into retinol to retinaldehyde and all that?" I'm like, yes, all of those shifts are possible. And the skin does do that in small amounts as needed based on its needs. But it's not going, "Thank goodness I have all this retinol, I'm going to turn it into retinaldehyde." It doesn't have that mechanism. And my evidence of that is I don't see permanent changes occurring in wrinkles from chronic retinol use. And the other last thing I'll say on the subject is retinol, when used topically, oxidizes in the sun. And everyone says, "Well, I'm going to use it at night then, Dr. Johnson." And I say, well, it's still there the next day. So when you're out in the sun from your application the night before, your retinol is oxidizing and causing DNA damage. And if it's exfoliating retinol, it is causing sun sensitivity, which is more DNA and aging. And so I think retinols need to go. I think retinaldehyde needs to, find its place to every skincare line. I wish I had the patent on it, but I do not. Our distinction was we used a stabilized retinaldehyde because it's very, very unstable. And we, in fact, retinaldehyde, lasts about 24 hours in a bottle without a stability system. So it's really not present in a system without it. But we also liposome deliver, because the other challenge with vitamin A is it has about a 2% penetration rate. So we're looking for ways to enhance delivery, enhance stability. And by the way, that lowers sun sensitivity, that reduces and virtually eliminates DNA damage from that molecule. So it's a holistic mindset I have, and I think it's very effective.
Yes, I love that so much. And I've heard, a few keywords that you mentioned there are, situated around the word inflammation. I mean, we're responding and reacting much faster to a retinol than we are. What I'm seeing is a retinaldehyde. So, for a client, it's less shedding immediately. It's less of a response. They don't have to slowly introduce the product, because their skin can certainly handle it more and it's more durable. Can you talk to then, in terms of that inflammation, then how you view inflammation to accelerate the aging process? And I guess, by taking out the retinol, well, then, you are reducing that inflammation. So we're not going to age as fast.
Yeah. You know, that that subject goes into many layers. And I would say inflammation is an interesting term. And again, you have to remember, I like to flip everything on its head because I'm just looking at it from all sides. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what is inflammation really? Inflammation is a repair response. So in the case of a retinol going in and let's say exfoliating several layers of stratum corneum or oxidizing and causing free radical wound, what is the actual inflammation? It's a repair response to the damage that retinol caused. It's a repair response. And that's such an important thing. And so many people are doing all these techniques to reduce inflammation when in fact, where we really need to focus our attention is what triggered it, what triggered that repair response. And when it comes to aging, my take on the skin's a little bit different. I believe that the vast majority of aging, yes, you have DNA damage, no question that repeated sunburns in particular. I actually think the sun can be rejuvenating when done in sort of therapeutic doses. But when you get a little excess, it's easy to do, right? You could be getting therapeutic sun and next thing you know, you stayed out a little too long or you didn't quite use protection. And then you start getting some DNA damage. And that's really where that's the kind of damage that's hard for the body to come back to. Now, cellular replacement is happening all the time. And I think we're pretty good about that. And this whole idea that your cells have a limited number of limited number of divisions, I think is not looking close enough at just the entire stem cell network and just the plethora of what we'll call nascent cells that are capable. Because obviously, if the Hayflick limit, which is this limitation on how many times a cell can divide, were really hard and strong, you'd see all these centenarians like without any skin, right? We'd be like, wait, we ran out. I'm at 110. I've got nothing left. We never run out, right? So my point is to say, you have a lot of cellular replacement. The body's brilliant in that design. Where I see the biggest challenge for aging skin, and that reflects in three areas: the DNA, the loss of your fat pad, your facial volume losses, which I'm hugely focused on right now. So excited about my discoveries in that area. And then the loss of collagen volume, collagen and elastin volume. And a lot of that has to do with circulation. So when you go back and you look at it, you realize every year of your adult life after age 25, you lose about 1% of your collagen, and you also lose about 1% of your circulation. And it turns out as you lose that circulation, fibroblasts diminish. As you lose that circulation, growth factors diminish, immune repair cells, immune activity, all of that shifts. And so for me, a big focus in getting more long-term changes in the skin is restoring vascularity, and then the skin's like, oh, I know what to do with that. And oxygen's included in that. A lot of people even point to oxygen, say, well, look, when you're 40, you have this much less oxygen. And I'm like, yeah, because you have that much less circulation. And you know, so it's not like you want to throw oxygen into the skin. That's a big free radical hot mess. It's that you just want to increase the circulation. So that's the approach I take to aging. I try not to focus too much. Like, I'm not an antioxidant guy. I think the skin is really good at making antioxidants. You'll see it diminish over time as oxygen diminishes. You don't need more antioxidants if you have less oxygen. And yes, if you're out in the sun a lot, you need more antioxidants. If you have a toxic diet, you need more antioxidants. But the clinical studies are out. Antioxidants actually suppress immune activity, are harmful to you. By megadosing C and E was clinically proven to harm you. And I think that's true at the skin level as well. So I do have antioxidants. I just don't put a huge focus on it. And I don't focus my aging as much on, I focus my aging approach on restoring your barrier. So you have less free radical damage and better natural sun protection and more circulation.
Interesting. Okay, I am going to make sure I am circulating my skin and stimulating through cleansing and massage and all of that kind of stuff for all of my days now.
Here's what you do. You could sleep hanging upside down.
Yeah.
It's magic.
I'll morph into a bat while I'm there. One of the most difficult conditions to treat from therapists and estheticians is certainly melasma, and it's becoming very, very common now. What's your approach to melasma and treating such a sticky condition?
Oh, well, listen, I I was in Australia and I was helping my distributors at a trade show very early in the osmosis phase. I'm just remembering this because it was a slightly painful moment for me. And I had just realized that melasma was caused by liver damage. And I'll tell you how I got there in a moment. But I just remember the time when I was talking to this plastic surgeon, or maybe it was a dermatologist. I think it was a plastic surgeon. And I started to share with him that melasma was caused by liver damage. And he just started to walk away while I was talking. Wow. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's not, not well received. I get it. But here's the thing. Look, I will tell you, I'm super logical and super, I chase down every pathway. And when I started hearing the story, just think about what current physicians think right now causes melasma. They say it's an estrogen imbalance. Okay. So an estrogen imbalance, that's every cell of the body. So why are you getting brown blotches on your face if you have estrogen imbalance in your whole body? And then they say, well, and it's melanocyte hyperactivity. Okay. Well, we see that there's dermal inflammation in the clinical studies. So there's something generating the melanocyte hyperactivity. So you say it's estrogen, you say it's hyperactivity. I'm seeing this dermal inflammation. I think it's protective. So I think all pigment diseases are a protective response to inflammation. And then the question is, well, what causes that dermal inflammation to show up in blotches on your face? And I linked it back to the liver, and I did it through, analysis of the fact that 1 out of every 3 women who take birth control, which is harming the liver, get it. Then I started to notice other liver harming medications were causing melasma, like antidepressants, anxiety medicines, handful of others, kind of random drugs. And then I noticed that liver transplant patients were getting it. People with hepatitis were getting it. So it became very clear to me that it was liver. And then it was just a focus on, well, what wellness product can I come up with that repairs the liver? And I had to come up with 2 for melasma. It's very challenging. And one repairs the oxidative damage of the liver, and the other repairs the other types of damage to the liver. And we're having great success. So melasma is super challenging, and it does take on average about 8 months to clear, unless, and the size of your melasma sort of tells you how much liver damage you have. But why do women get it when they're pregnant? Well, they get it when they're pregnant because they're usually over the age of 30. So their liver has taken some hits and their hormones are surging. So their liver's having trouble managing those higher levels of hormones, and it gets wounded. That's why I think 2/3 of pregnancy-based melasma goes away on its own, because it's a natural hormone event. But 1/3, their livers just wasn't healthy enough to take the hit. So anyway, we take that approach. It's super fun for me. It turns out I also believe now that liver spots are caused from the liver. I don't know what smart, probably older woman in 1920 came up with the term liver spots that intuitively knew it came from that. But that is also, it's a different source of damage. It's not usually hormone related. The main cause in melasma is hormones. So yeah, it's a tough condition, but it's treatable. And it's not something you have to spend a lifetime using lighteners on. That's a very frustrating path to take, as you know, one weekend trip to the beach and all your 2 years of lightening efforts are gone in smoke. So I like to get to the wound in the dermis, and that starts in the liver.
Interesting. Damn it. I've been blaming my pregnancy and my son for all of my melasma, when really it's the margaritas and the martinis, right?
No, alcohol is not a melasma cause. That's a good, yeah. Alcohol, I have found, causes actinic keratosis. Yes, so if you're drinking those, you may develop some AKs over time. But I haven't linked it, so you can stay with those. Blame your son.
Good. I need the margaritas to combat the sun. So I'm glad you said good. You mentioned there that you like to have a little bit of a holistic approach, which is definitely becoming a lot more popular across the industry now. And I've read in a couple of your blogs that there's a link between emotions and the way that they influence our health and our skin. So can you just speak to that and explain that a little bit further for us?
Oh yeah. Well, so my big revelation in the last decade, and I didn't come out with all my products day one of Osmosis. It's been a journey for me every time. I'm very actively involved in my network of estheticians, even down in Australia. So if you visit an Osmosis esthetician, she has direct access to me throughout the week typically. And I learned that toxins, pathogens, and emotions are the three sources of essentially all disease, including all skin conditions and skin diseases. And emotions are an interesting one. The most common emotional skin reaction is what the dermatologists call eczema of the eyelids. Mm. And that is basically, that zone is your adrenal zone, and it peels and gets red when you're stressed. So it's a really interesting one, because if you're stressed about a female thing, so that can be creativity or a woman, sister, mother, then your left eye, and this is also true for eye twitching as well, by the way, but your left eye might get inflamed. If both eyes are inflamed, it's typically money, death in the family, something like that. And then the right eye is usually a male influence. So fun things like that have come up over years as I've learned about how the body reacts. And then other, obviously, emotions are impacting, the progression of an illness. Like you see rosacea get worse with emotions. But mostly when I'm treating emotions, and I do have this really kind of crazy technology, and I make an elixir called emotional well-being, and it actually causes a detox reaction in about 40% of people, where they get a little irritated and may cry, have spurts of crying for a few weeks as they sort of shed that toxic. But it's really good for anxiety, PTSD, stuff like that. But I find that I'm doing it less and less for the actual skin conditions and more for just life, like, finding balance in your life. So emotions are a really interesting thing. And, I guess the last thing I'll say on it is there's a much deeper layer of emotional effect. So for example, I do believe if a woman gets breast cancer, there's a pretty good chance there was a negative emotion around mothering, whether it's her own mothering or her mother's relationship, that created a deposit of energy in her field. Because I'm very much a believer in the energy body of the system. And our body is essentially an energy being, according to quantum physics. And so you need that sort of as a base point for cancer to even start developing. And then I believe then the toxins come in, the pesticides, estrogenic pesticides come in, estrogenic food preservatives come in, and they can create enough of a shift in the cells to create cancer. But so emotions play a role at that deeper level as well, but that's harder to see.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. I'm wondering then, how important is it for you to surround yourself with with the people rather, that have a same vision as yourself and the brand? Because, you think so differently to anyone that I've had on the podcast before. I'm sure that, you might have some employees who go, whoa, this is a bit left for me. Do you need those people who are on the same train?
I'm embarrassed to say, I have quite a few people who are sort of clueless about what we do. And I'm always like, really? Don't you want to know? You can't believe this. Look at what we did with this case of eczema, or even warts. Like, we're treating warts, we're treating syringoma, like crazy random skin stuff. And yes, you would think, and I do think it's important. And over time, especially in my key positions, I try to associate myself with people who have the same vision. But I have a pretty powerful energy, I guess I think of it as, and I'm able to carry. I think the company. I think it's holding. I'm able to hold this momentum. Without that, it's hard to find these people. I'll just say that, Tamara. And so I can't always. I have a lot of great employees. They just happen to not be totally into it or in alignment with my view of the world, which is obviously, like you said, a little bit different.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I definitely agree. Your energy is absolutely infectious. And I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today. And I think everyone who is listening will need to go back and replay this and sit with a notepad and a pen and take some notes and soak it all up, because that advice and that insight into ingredients has just been magic. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. And hopefully we can do it again. Like, there's so much to share about ideas about how to make the skin healthy. And I know we kind of just scratched the surface. So maybe we'll get another opportunity, but I really appreciate you having me on. And I hope, everyone who's listening, it has an impact on them.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah.
Wow, what a truly fascinating episode today. I'm always here for the people who want to push back on the traditional rhetoric we know and challenge ourselves to think outside of the box. If you're interested to continue the learning process, then you can do so by checking out Osmosis on the gram by searching for @Osmosis Skincare Oz, it's AUS, and @Osmosis_beauty. Feel free to share this episode across your stories, or if you loved it so much and think somebody else needs to hear this episode, share it with a friend or a work colleague, and be sure to tag us @Beauté Come and say hello to me too. I love chatting to you all so much in the DMs and hearing where you're at in your career journey, and you can find me @Tamara Reid Beauté. Until next time, stay connected.